I would want to break into, I definitely treat the full day like it was a Black Friday deal.
Yeah.
Like, how many Samsung TVs can Tisdale carry? We're about to find out.
The people I would want to kill couldn't be taken out in one day. You know, like if I could figure out how to coordinate the heat death of every insurance executive.
Oh, there we go.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But like, who's going to waste their purge on altruistic murder, you know?
That's right. You should do this.
No, you bring us in. You bring us in. You say welcome.
I don't
You know how to say welcome to people.
Yes. Okay. I know how to say it. According to John, I know how to say welcome. So, welcome to 1999, the podcast. I'm Jen Tisdale, surviving.
That was great. I'm John Brooks.
Fantastic. We did it. I did it. These idle hands are rocking the cradle of love.
Sure.
That was a lot.
That was a lot. That was
like
references. Billy Idol reference.
Rebecca De Mornay. Got in there a little bit.
Yeah, that was the hand that rocks the cradle.
That's right. Still,
but you went rock the cradle of love.
I know. Just taking rocks the cradle.
Mm-hmm. The idle hands that rocks the cradle of love.
That's correct.
The ultimate mashup of Devon Sawa,
Rebecca De Mornay, and Billy Idol. All your favorite blondes in one location.
At long last.
Yep.
At long last.
They said it couldn't be done.
We neglected to mention a couple things in our most recent episode about the first 2 weeks of January, which were delightfully pointed out to me by somebody. One is that in that period of time, in that first 2 weeks, the crime that launched the first ever podcast, Serial, the murder of Heyman Lee, also occurred in the first 2 weeks of January, but nobody knew about it until the first podcast made it famous in the whenever that was time 2000
and then they got everything wrong. So,
everything.
Sarah Koenig, you have a lot of explaining to do,
but you invented podcasts, so
you certainly did. I mean, there were obviously podcasts before that, but if the podcast falls in the forest and there's nobody around to listen to it, does it get any downloads? Guess not.
It wasn't. Originally, it was just like a segment on This American Life. Like, it wasn't even a podcast, really, right? Was it? It was sort of
what an American life it was. I will say, look, I'll be snarky for 1 second.
Yes.
My previous life, as I've mentioned, I was the creator and director of a true crime festival. And when we tried to do a big Serial event, they moved exactly 60 tickets in a venue that had, I believe, about at least 1,000 seats. So the interest in Serial as of 2019, at least, waning or completely non-existent.
Wow.
Yeah. Just
interest in Serial or interested in the Adnan Syed case?
I think it was a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B, as clearly there are a lot more options. And I know this because I built an entire festival around them. But, just a little something to, think about. Really makes you think, as they say.
I will say that I did think that the HBO documentary, The Case Against Adnan Syed, was very good, and much better than anything that Serial did. So I would certainly direct people to watch that, because that also, I think, treats Hay as like an actual person who lived, and also I think takes a much, because I'm not going to get into it. Takes a much fairer and more humane look at Adnan, and it's really good. So go watch that. Don't listen to Serial. But yes, that story starts in 99. So yeah, kind of a bummer. But anyway.
Speaking of hands that have murdered, today, tonight, or whenever you're listening,
this morning,
we're going to get into the Devil's Playground, and we're going to really sit in that sand, build some castles, mess it up a bit. That's right. We're talking about idle hands. John,
Yes.
What is Idle Hands about?
Idle Hands is about young Jesse Pinkman, I think that's his name, who just wants to be left. Is that his? No, it's
That's Anton.
Tobias. Anton
as
Tobias.
in LeVay.
I kept thinking he was Jesse Pinkman. Wants to be left alone, smoke pot, watch horror movies, and maybe bang his neighbor Jessica Alba. But a local killer who has been picking off random victims in his hometown has different ideas. When he realizes the parents he hasn't seen for a few days are in fact dead, he suspects the killer may be out to get him next. Until, that is, he discovers the killer is, dun dun dun, him. A plot twist they never explain in the movie. We'll get back to that.
Yeah.
Or more specifically, his idle right hand, which has become the devil's workshop / playground, depending on which version of the idiom you find, and which ends up killing his two stoner best friends, Seth Green and Foggy Nelson from Daredevil, who defy death and return as zombies to help him win Jessica Alba's heart and defeat the evil hand. At the same time, High Priestess Vivica A. Fox, who is basically Buffy but for evil hands, is tracking the evil hand down, determined to slay it. Young Jesse Pinkman, meanwhile, eventually decides to cut off his own hand, and it becomes Thing from the Addams Family. Literally the same actor, actually, which I found out, and goes on a reign of terror across town, eventually killing the lead singer of popular 90s pop punk band The Offspring. Can the hand be stopped before it kills off other 90s pop punk lead singers, like that of Blink-182, who also lives in the same town for some reason? Find out Idle Hands.
It was released in 1,611 theaters, which feels like too many. Even though I love this motion picture, on April 30th, 1999, a full 10 days after its original scheduled release date. The reason for being pushed back? Listeners, take a drink every time we mention Columbine, because Columbine was the culprit. This 92-minute comedy, fantasy, horror, thriller motion picture has an unfortunate 16% Rotten Tomatoes score, though the audience score comes in at a reasonable 58%. With over 5,000 reviewers coming to that conclusion. As John told me minutes before we began recording, there's a 31% Metacritic score. He explained to me what that is. I immediately forgot. It's pretty complicated. We got to keep moving. No, we have to keep going. I feel like a slacker, much like the characters in this movie. The reviews, however, they weren't having it. Robert Kohler, or is it Keller? He wrote for Variety, and he, quote, said, "The devil doesn't get enough of his due in the would-be horror romp Idle Hands, which will be most remembered as the 1999 movie that tried and failed, this is so mean, to push Devon Sawa to the front of the teen star class. This demographically correct project is too calculated by half and underwritten by about as much, as witlessly unaware of its faltering sense of comedy as its stoner dude heroes are of everyday reality. Hands has such an iron grip, I appreciate that, on its targeted young male audience that it's scary. But overall, theatrical and ancillary returns will be dampened by the harsh fact that the horror comedy genre is in rather gory decay." Now, obviously, he was proven wrong. Gene Seymour for the LA Times didn't like it either. He said, "Idle Hands is both shameless and affectionate toward its precursors, but after several editions of Scream and other teen horror franchises, even the act of goofing on the genre has passed the point of critical mass. It doesn't take long for the you-know-what's-going-to-happen next archness of Idle Hands to congeal into a been-there-done-that pallor." He went on to say that the movie lacks in originality, but it makes up for in energy and insolence. It takes guts for a movie to indulge as much as this one does in proto-hippie humor, and you find yourself tickled, in spite of yourself, by the movie's nerve, if not its jokes. And after the anxiety of so many recent high school epics, it's almost a relief to come across one that slouches at a cool, late, hazy distance from class conflict. And finally, everybody's favorite, sadly, Roger Ebert gave Idle Hands 2.5 stars, saying it sampled other teen horror movies like a video DJ with a tape deck, exhibiting high spirits and a crazed comic energy. It doesn't quite work, but it goes down swinging with a disembodied hand. He also said, and I agree, the only thing this movie is likely to inspire a kid to do is study Fangoria magazine to find out how the special effects were achieved. Now, I don't agree with the first part, but I do agree with the special effects. Joining us today is a personal favorite of mine, John Michael Bond. He's originally from Chattanooga, Tennessee. He honed his craft as part of the nationally recognized Atlanta, Georgia comedy scene. Now living in LA, he's performed at part of San Francisco Sketchfest, written for The Hard Times, tours everywhere, and is generally affable still. Creative Loafing magazine described his comedy as covering, quote, the arduous yet worthwhile pursuit of love, rationalizing vices with how they impact relationships, the wackiness of death, and why society should be nicer. He feels that's accurate. And I want to add that when I asked JMB if he wanted to cover this motion picture, he informed me that he had just bought the DVD. John Michael Bond, thank you for cleaning off your screen. We care a lot about that. Welcome.
It wasn't all like lens flares, you know?
I prefer that
this is not a J.J. Abrams podcast.
Listen, I want everybody lit like a soap opera from the 80s. Vaseline lenses all the way. All the way, guys. You're not going to see a wrinkle. There's too much Vaseline. Okay. John, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for doing this. I have one question. You just purchased this, like literally within the past 2 or 3 weeks, you purchased the Blu-ray of this motion picture.
I did.
Why did you do that? What is your relationship with Idle Hands?
Well, I feel like the reason I bought it is probably more in relation to my relationship with impulse control than anything else. The holidays are a great time for Blu-ray sales. I also, in the last year, there have just been a bunch of times where I wanted to watch something and it wasn't streaming. And I used to have just like a bonkers DVD collection. The number of things that in retrospect that I sold for $5 to a friend that I could have sold for $200 later.
Yeah.
Just weird obscure sets or Japanese gore movies or stuff like that. It made me start to think about I probably should put stuff in a storage unit instead of just wholesale getting rid of everything when I move to a town.
I do that every time I move. That's what happens. So it's both a blessing and a curse to move.
Yeah, the Purge is a wonderful slasher series and how you find peace in your 20s and 30s.
Yes, I love the Purge.
True.
Now, everybody,
So
quick,
true.
name who you would kill. John? No, kidding.
I was thinking
Man.
more like your stuff in my garage, but
I would commit
you-
financial crimes.
You can't say yourself. Okay, cool. Okay, financial crimes
it's
are
not
good
illegal
too.
to kill yourself. It's illegal to
In some
survive.
in some place. That's the loophole, guys. Do it right. This is not an endorsement. Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, if I could, I never understood people's impulse in those movies to rape and murder immediately. I would commit financial crimes.
That's right.
I
would want to break into. Yeah, I definitely treat the full day like it was a Black Friday deal.
Yeah.
How many Samsung TVs can Tisdale carry? We're about to find out.
Dude, the people I would want to kill couldn't be taken out in one day. You know, if I could figure out how to coordinate the heat death of every insurance executive.
Oh, there we go.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But who's gonna waste their purge on altruistic murder? You know.
That's right. Everybody, good. I'm sorry. I started. Speaking of murder, God, this is a great segue. Idle hands
and impulse control.
Control.
Both.
I mean,
Idle
I feel
hands.
like impulse control is fitting for this film. Though I will say that this is one that has ended up in my basket from Shout Factory, who put it out 3 or 4 times before I finally pulled the trigger. And it's something that I've realized in the last 2 years. I don't want to watch sad movies anymore.
Yeah.
I'll do it if it's art that I have to participate in culturally. Sure, why not? But if I have a choice to never see another movie that bums me the fuck out, I'm gonna take that. So I've started collecting comfort films almost more than good movies.
Yes.
And this is a fun comfort film because I feel as you watch it more, the first time you see it, you're like, what a fun, dumb stoner gore comedy. And then the second time you watch it, you're like, the cinematography in this is so much better than it has any right to be. And then the 30th time that you watch it like me, you're like, oh, they meant to make Italian.
Yes, they did.
Galileo film. And
Dario Argento
decided instead to make a teen sex comedy.
That's correct.
And I love watching it. It brings me joy because I get to watch it with my friends who are film nerds, and they're like, "Why is the lighting so good in this?"
Well, John, it's funny that you should mention that because
and the production design
in my little facts and trivia, and I'll just name my sources right now. Idle Hands, 22 Facts About the 90s Horror Comedy, Creepy Catalog, a Seth Green interview for the AV Club from September 2007. And then
This was wild. This is so wild.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then a Devon Sawa interview for the AV Club from November 2012. And then Hack the Movies podcast, November 2023, coming in hot and fresh, was an interview with director Rodman Flander, who talked about the Dario
By the way,
Argento.
amazing name, that guy.
Rodman Flander.
Rodman Flander should have made American Pie. Like, that's the name of the guy who made American. Like, Rodman Flander. Come on, that's the Alan Smithy of teen sex comedy.
Yeah.
Yes, he talked about the lighting. He was expressly asked about the lighting, and he did talk about how he wanted to light this like a Dario Argento movie, and he talked about his choice to. He thinks that comedy, what makes this so funny is that the actors don't know they're in a comedy. They are acting as you would act, very in response to the situations at hand, but the situations are very funny, but they are not. Guys, this is going to be happening the whole time.
But that's it's fun because I feel like I love watching movies that are at war with the studio, that are doing their best to try and make the movie they want to make. And I think the only correct note that the studio made was change the ending.
That's right.
Like, if I could fix this film to make sense to people who aren't broken like me, like, cause I watch a movie like this and my first thought is, what are the studio notes? Cause I've seen so many movies that are trying to be something and get changed. And like, this is so clearly that. I feel like the character that most exemplifies that is Jessica Alba. Like,
yeah.
Where a character who solely exists as male fantasy to a degree where even in 1999, when I saw this, I was like, she wouldn't act like that. Like, and I want to know. There's part of me that
slinks everywhere. She's so slinky.
She's very slinky. She makes a lot of weird choices that I couldn't hang my hat on. I couldn't figure out what she was doing. And my favorite note,
because I don't think she could either, Jennifer.
No, I watched this with my person who's a little younger than me. So he was not. I was 19 in 1999. He was not 19 in 1999, and he kept remarking about Jessica Alba's hair. He was like, I don't understand what her haircut's doing. And I was like, oh, I do. I don't know how to explain it. That was the haircut.
The imbrulia.
That was the haircut. And upon, further inspection, I'm like, oh, she looks like a mother. Why is top up, like neck up, she's a mom, neck down.
It's the sort of like coded haircut of depressed teen girls, where when they say cutting, they mean bangs and not arms, it was hard. Like it's a very specific bad haircut, but she's so slinky and so like everything she does is rolling her eyes, but like in a way that she thinks is sexy. Like the way she falls down is rolling her eyes. The way that she's like, ooh, bad boy, is rolling her. Like it's constantly trying to figure out whether or not she means it. And I can't tell if that's a comedic choice, a direction choice, or this script gave me nothing to work with, so I'm just going to lean into it choice.
Well, first of all, right. So I gotta say that like the other haircut of the era was the Kelly Monaco haircut. Like they had the two haircuts, right? So like Kelly Monaco has one of them, Jessica Alba has the other one, and those are the two haircuts that you could have in 1999. The other thing, so when you said I don't want to watch sad movies anymore, and I was like, the funny thing is that like if anybody had human emotions in this movie, it'd be very sad. Like it's like there's be a lot of sadness here if anybody actually responded like human beings.
It opens up. I guess we should try to go in order. And I know that in theory
but Jen, before you do that, you have to read what Seth Green said about, because I like that when I read that, I'm like, I don't
know if I pulled every single thing that he said.
Okay, I think I have it.
I do. I think about the best thing about that movie, that part. Seth Green said,
Yeah.
This is what he said. The best thing about that movie was that everybody working on it had a different mission statement. So this is JMB. This is going to speak to your what is Jessica Alba doing? No, everyone's got a different vibe. We all thought we were making a different movie. Me and the boys, the other actors, Devon and Elden, we were convinced we were making a high drama with some comedic elements. And we tried to make our relationship as lifelong best friends believable. And the director, Rodman, was attempting to make a throwback Italian horror film like a Dario Argento flick. The writers really wanted it to be Heathers. And the studio was listening to the test marketing and saying that if what this movie didn't have, they really wanted the zombies to be cuter and have more wacky antics. And apparently all the kids in the audience thought that there should be more pot smoking, that pot should save the day. And somewhere, somehow, Jessica Alba needed to get her top ripped off. And that's how that whole new ending got shot, where she's up on the car lift and gets her midsection ripped off, and pot saves the day. Like
it's the most 1999 topless scene humanly imaginable.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
Sure
very
is.
funny because the film, I feel like this film is more misogynistic than some 80s comedies that have actual nudity.
Well, yeah, because Jessica Alba could not have been more she's not even two-dimensional. She's
This
one-dimensional.
has actual nudity in it.
She's one-dimensional.
Actual nudity in it.
Oh, sure, but like they went and did reshoots to tear her top off, and it's it's a very conservative two-piece bathing suit, and it's
There's the whole scene with Kelly Monaco where she's like full on nude. Like,
I want to be very clear. I'm not denying the nudity that exists. It's just like it's such a 99 studio note where they're like, we have to go back and objectify her, but this way. It's like it can't figure out what it wants to do. Like it can't figure out what kind of scumbag it wants to be. Does it want to be a film about indifferent teenagers who callously giggle past every horrifying murder that happens to them?
Well, here's the thing. Are they callously giggling or are they high the whole time? Like, that's the issue. The issue is like Devon Sawa, no one reacts to the death of his parents. In fact, his friends seem far more upset than he is. But I
once
feel
they
like,
finally see it.
But I feel like, and big ups to Fred Willard. Speaking of hands that are not really idle, Fred Willard.
Great reference, Jen. People are get that.
I've been stoned with friends before when a murder happened, not in front of us, but like we found out about a murder, and like we riffed too much during it, but we also weren't immediately callous about it.
You also didn't stumble upon bodies previously hidden by two jack-o'-lanterns.
Unfortunately, I live in Los Angeles. I've absolutely found dead bodies while high, but that's not people I knew, just folks.
So the thing that, this is what doesn't work. So I like a lot about this movie, but like this is ultimately like where it doesn't work for me is that it is all these different sort of like versions of reality happening at the same time. And there does seem to be this conflict over like, what kind of movie is this and what are we actually doing here? And everybody does really seem to be very much on board with it, but it's like, what are we actually on board, on board with? It reminded me, Jen, of like, and I really wish that they'd gone with this tone and sort of doubled down on it. Was like, it reminded me of Buffy. It was like what are the stoners up to in Buffy?
Well,
episode,
Seth Green should have had far more insight then, because he had already been living that Buffy life. He should have known better.
I liked the joke that like death is irrelevant, kind of the way it is in Buffy most of the time. Like nobody pays much attention to it.
Well, until Joyce dies, the most heartbreaking scene in television.
Well, sure. Yeah,
anyway,
okay, right.
We can't get into that. I will cry.
But the whole kind of tone of like it being sort of a self-aware horror movie, like I liked that, but because it doesn't ever sort of stick with one perspective and like sort of one tone, it doesn't ever really quite work, and it gets kind of icky to me towards the end.
I have a question though. I'm Seth Green. I'm reading this script. I see that it's largely driven by pot and all this foolishness. When have I come to the conclusion that this is a serious motion picture that has some comedic elements? I don't understand how he came to that conclusion.
Here's the thing. I think the two things that you guys are talking about are why this movie works. Okay. Because one, there's clearly reshoot stuff that goes in where they added the jokes. And I think that stuff, like there's clearly like goofy shit between the zombies that wasn't in the original scene in the movie. And if you watch the way that they respond to, even like when the cops come in and they're just like, you know what, I think you should kill those guys. They shot my friend, there's an element of it that is, as they become more undead, they become more inhuman. They become, and I want to read the original script because I feel like if you take out a lot of the dickhead stoner gags, that stuff becomes more clear. And like I sent Jenna a copy of the original ending on YouTube, and like the effects are very unfinished, but it is tonally way more in line with the kind of like the Italian horror vibe of everything else that's going into it. I think what makes it great though is when they shot the reshoots and they like put this crap in, everyone is still making the movie that they're trying to make. So I feel like the wild tonal shifts and like kind of add to the unreality of everything. The insanity of like how much they put in the splat stick stuff all of a sudden makes things like her high-fiving and being like, now time for the ritual sex at the end a funny like, because there's at no point has that been promised in any capacity, and he's like, oh, I was right to sit around and like a lot of this unreality of it adds to why it works at the end, because it's like it's accepting all of the rules that it's introduced as valid. So like when something particularly stupid happens, well, you're like, okay, that of course the puppet can change eyes now. Why not? Because they've been gradually building up to this sense of unreality. If anything, the opening sequence is the only part of the movie that's set in a traditional slasher movie. And then everything after that is just a continuous ball of, well, what happens when chaos unfolds?
Yep.
Yeah, we really don't get to spend too much time with anyone in their normal life. None at all. Devon Sawa, he is immediately this thing. Now, Devon Sawa murdering his parents birthed a conversation between my person and I, because here's our question about this. If the hand has the capability of controlling Devon Sawa as he sleeps and rendering Devon Sawa awake, completely unaware of what he did while asleep, why not just wait till he's asleep every night and murder people then? Because when it tries to take over while he's awake, that's when the battle wages against Devon Sawa's body and the hand. So just wait till he's asleep, take over his body.
That's also...
It's done.
That's also the plot. That's also the plot point where I was like, "Wait, why?" So
that's the only time that
realization.
Happens.
It's places he got high.
Yeah. So like, okay. So he realizes that he's murdered people when he sees the bloody knife, right?
Sure.
He realizes that it's been him, but then all of a sudden, like, he's aware of the hand doing stuff where apparently he wasn't before. And is that just because he was high the whole time before, or like, what's the explanation for why he was unaware that he was committing murders until
I think it is significant that he kills the guys at the fast food place.
Yeah.
Like I think I feel like what they're trying to do, they don't earn it, but I feel like what they're trying to do is be like, these are what they describe it as like, the people it possesses are the most burned out losers with nothing to live for and all of this.
Right.
He is possessed at all of the places that he is just like going and getting high and like
through the motions,
blacking out and kind of like zoning through his life and all the, I feel like it becomes a metaphor for all of the things that he's missing in his life that are happening. And then it becomes a movie that is too dumb to hold the weight of a metaphor.
Okay, so right, you can explain that with one line, and it becomes a better movie that is more thoughtful. All you gotta do is do that once. Just be like, "Here's why this is happening now, where it wasn't before," and I'd be like, "Oh, that's interesting. What a cool perspective." Because, like, I think you're right, but because they they never make a point to mention it, I also think I'm giving it too much credit by thinking that you're right.
Yeah.
So this is one of those movies where it's like, I feel like if you watch the original ending and then rewatch the movie, there's a part of you that even without the interview is going to go, this was meant to be a smarter movie than it was.
Right.
And even because even the I feel like even the wraparound plot of the film at the end, in both endings, he dies and rejects heaven to stay on Earth with Molly. So at bare minimum, a guy who's been a zombie, ironically, with two zombies, the biggest zombie is him, is at the end of the film finally choosing life. But like, of course, he's indifferent to the death of his parents.
Just like George Michael's t-shirt said.
Absolutely.
Choose life.
And you know, he finds redemption in the back. All right, so yeah, he I think that there's an element of like his indifference to the death of his parents is supposed to be an element of like his indifference to every single aspect of life. Like even at the end when he runs into Vivica Fox or Debbie at the school, he's like, look, if you're a teacher, we're going to have to talk about my attendance some other time. Like they've established he is so zoned out on everything that he can't even tell whether or not you are a teacher that's going to be mad at him. Like, I think that again, I feel like I want to read the original script. I feel like they were trying to go for something, maybe not meaningful, but at least like with a wraparound. And they
also said, like, I also read that Seth Green said that he and Elden Hensen improvised a bunch of their lines, and I was like, is it a bunch or is it all? Because it really feels like everything those two say is like them being funny and making shit up on the spot, or sometimes not being funny, and it sort of falls flat. But
a lot of can't hardly wait leftovers.
Oh god, well, you know what? He had every right. He was like, these were mine, and I'm taking them with me, like Corey Feldman and Goonies. Okay.
Yep.
Now I can tell you that Rodman Felder didn't really speak too much about the script's rewrites. He just said he said it had a couple of directors before him and it had been in development for a while. And, at the risk of repeating myself and all three of us, he said, it's a peculiar movie with a peculiar tone and no one could agree on what that one is.
Mm-hmm.
So, when he came on, Devon Sawa had already been cast. And that was like all that he had. And then and this will make sense to everyone. Rodman's mentor, Roger Corman.
Oh,
so what they like?
It's our second Roger Corman mentee this round.
Corman shows up, and their reasons for wanting him and coming through the Roger Corman cinematic school is that Rodman Feldman can work fast.
See,
which is not great. Not we don't want that, but that's what they wanted. They wanted fast.
The fact that this movie works and still clearly shows the like, a lot of times you get studio notes and you look at the movie and you can't tell where the director was. This is a film where you can tell what he shot to make the studio happy, but all of the stuff that he shot, like I go back to the lighting a lot, but like the lighting, the use of camera angles, the geography of every house, every building, the way that they go in and out of buildings, even down to the entrance of the like going in through the garden into the basement of the Stoner house, like every element of it, and the way that even that opening sequence, the way that the camera follows the mom down the stairs to the forest green of the walls, everything about it is shot like an Italian horror film.
Yep, there's one color scheme followed by another color, followed by another color, followed by another
hard
color.
Blues, hard reds,
green.
It's very elemental. It is there, and also like the camera haunts, like the camera moves. The cinematography is so much better than it has any right to be. The camera moves like a phantasm that is like seeing things. You can't ever tell if the hand is the camera after it gets cut off, and I think they intentionally do that a couple of times. There's all of these little elements, and even when they try to make it funny, like when the girl gets sucked up into the fan, which is they clearly are shooting, like that was clearly shot to be more horrific, and then also because someone getting sucked into a fan is funny, like they were able to edit around it. But like the tone of everything is so there. Even when the hand is like sharpening its fingers,
that's the best.
Oh yeah.
It's the best, and I'm sure I'm wrong, but I was like, how have I not seen this in a hand-centered motion picture before? It feels so obvious, and yet I laughed so hard.
It's such a love letter to Demons 1 and 2.
Yes.
Like there's so many moments in it where you could tell that he's like, I'll make your movie, but I'm also going to force my movie into it. And like, I think that's where you get the confusion from the actors, is they were like, I think that they trusted a lot, even with the humor, when he's like, we thought we were making a serious horror movie that had like stoner comedy elements. How could you see the dailies of that and not think that's what they're making up until they make you reshoot the ending with a puppet?
Oh yeah, the puppet. I forgot about the puppet.
It's also the original ending with the fucking hands coming out of the wall, the fire pole, and the like. And is it scary? No, but the set design's really cool, and I would love to see the finished effects. And like, if you shot that movie first, and then they were like, don't worry, guys, we're gonna shoot this puppet gag. There's no way they're gonna go with it. Like, why wouldn't they think they were making Suspiria with weed? Like,
Yeah.
Is there a serious stoner movie? I mean, I guess Dazed and Confused is a comedy, but you could call it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dramatic elements involved, and you could say that's a stoner movie. I guess I just answered my own question. I guess I just feel like with a stoner movie, I'm going to err on the side of comedy almost every time.
I mean, like I'm a ridiculous stoner.
I'm not. So this is, I'm asking, I come to your altar.
Yeah, I smoke too much weed. Like I smoke dabs, which is not, that's
I don't even know what that is.
I don't know what that is either.
You know what, like a vape
old.
pen? It's smoking a vape pen out of a bong using a blowtorch. So like that's
what I do too. No, I'm just kidding.
I think that what weed films, even the serious ones, tend to always have a humorous element to them. I don't think it's possible to make a good weed movie that's just sad, because your target demographic won't see the ending of it.
No, that's what the Partnership for a Drug-Free America commercials are for. It's just like, sad weed movies.
But a lot of there are good weed movies that have, like, I feel like Pineapple Express is a quintessential.
Oh, I love that movie. The James Franco aside.
That is one of the best movies to show a 30-year-old who smokes too much pot, because
I love that movie.
Because the moral of the story is not that weed is evil; it's that you should at some point be 30.
Now, I think at one time in our lives, I never got into Half Baked, but many people of my generation would probably name check Half Baked as their favorite stoner movie. Mine's, of course, Reefer Madness,
a classic.
Mine's Requiem for a Dream.
Ooh,
that's my favorite stoner movie.
That's the gateway movie.
It is. I didn't know the thing that he was a Corman protege, and I was thinking a lot about The Rage Carrie 2 while watching this, and of course we now have a lot of crossover because we've got Kat Shea, who was also a Corman protege, who directed The Rage, and also The Rage was supposed to be a different director, and like she came on and had to
they needed somebody fast,
fix all the stuff.
Went and a Corman disciple to
get it done. If you want it done in probably 3 months,
we should talk really quickly, because we didn't actually in the intro go all the way through the cast and all the people who are in this movie. We have sort of briefly mentioned, of course, the main ones: the fantastic Devon Sawa, and then Seth Green and Elden Hensen, and then Jessica Alba and Vivica A. Fox.
Incredible.
Christopher Hart, the magician, plays the Hand, and as I mentioned briefly, he also plays Thing in the Addams Family. So that is just his thing.
Yeah, now has he reprised his role in Wednesday? Or
I did not realize a magician played that. It makes perfect sense.
How could you not? That kind of hand work?
Oh yeah.
He also played a similar thing in Angel, a disembodied hand. So that really is kind of his thing. We got two
Duchovny and Zoolander.
We got two all-star of like the best names of all time in this movie. The director, first of all, but then Jack Noseworthy, who plays Randy. Like, what a banger of a name that is.
He's
Jack Noseworthy.
Jack
Noseworthy.
And it's Jack Noseworthy, who plays Randy, right? Hits on Tanya, Katie Wright, who has been married to Hank Azaria for some time now. That's Katie Wright. That's what happened to her. She married Hank Azaria. Anyway, as she's mourning the murdered fast food twins, it turns out that these actors found out when they started working together on this movie that they are half siblings, and they didn't know that. So even a hint of a sassy scene with your half brother is that's too much.
Yeah,
that's too much. Now, again, I don't know how one doesn't know or makes that discovery, or somebody cheated. What a bummer, but what a discovery.
Yeah.
I didn't get more information than that. I didn't get a big, like sort of Parent Trap moment.
Yeah, that's one of those. How do you not know you have? Is a half sibling?
They were holding up pictures. Maybe it's the 90s, and they were like, "Of course, we all have pictures of our parents in our wallets." Which who does? But still,
is half siblings like one parent shared?
Yeah, so either there,
correct.
It's got to be. Okay. I bet it's got to be dad. It's usually dad, because obviously
that's fair. It's a lot harder for mom to hide that.
It's usually daddy.
Or she's just really into moo-moos and pranks,
Yeah, mom won't stop carrying around potted plants around the house. She's lifting another box. Mom, get out from behind that couch.
We're eating another turkey tonight?
We have the great
Hi,
Sean
kids.
Whalen as one
Oh,
of the two
yes.
cops. We got Fred Willard, who you mentioned, and Connie Ray as the ill-fated parents at the beginning of the movie. Steve Van Wormer plays Curtis. I don't know who that is. He was fine. Kelly Monaco, more famous now. The great. Okay, so a lot of the people in the burger joint, we know Joey Slotnick, great comedic character actor. Blink 182's Tom DeLonge taking a break from filming American Pie, I assume. Kyle Gass, half of Tenacious D, is also.
Really? Did I miss Kyle?
Yeah, where was Kyle
Where was
Gass?
Kyle Gass?
He is also one of the Burger Jungle people. The great Timothy Stack, who played what's his name? Martin Lewis. Of course, it's Martin Lewis. Not Ferris Bueller. Parker Lewis can't lose.
Yeah, I read.
Timothy Stack played Martin Lewis, Parker's father, in that show. He is the principal, who is ill-fated as well. He dies very quickly. And then also a brief cameo by the great Mindy Sterling, whose year really was 1999, because of course she was also in Austin Powers and Drop Dead Gorgeous. But man, she was having it.
And of course, Austin Powers, people will remember her as Frau Farbacina. Is that how you say her name? I will say that when I used to live in LA a million years ago and I'd go see the Groundlings, I used to go love to see Cooking with Gas on Thursdays. And she would often be popping into that improv group. And it was such a treat. Although not as much of a treat as that time Rue McClanahan was in the audience and I sobbed onto her shoulder.
Wow.
Guys, now who's cooking with gas? Me. This golden girl. Anyway, name drop.
Lastly, Ricky Martin makes an uncredited cameo as well, and the entirety of The Offspring. What is with these high schools who can just afford The Offspring as their like?
Well, what is it with? Has anyone ever been to a high school dance? And I'm talking about right now. If you're still going to high school dances as an adult, whatever.
Yeah.
Where there's a full band. We never had a band. It was always a shitty DJ, not even at prom.
California.
This was definitely an 80s or like a movie trope that I've never witnessed. Like, what is it? The Melissa Joan Hart, Adrian Grenier movie.
Drive Me Crazy.
Where the Donnas perform. And I was like, the fuck am I watching?
I went to a performing arts high school, and outside of our own singing and dancing of musical numbers during prom, a real and horrifying thing that happened. We just had a DJ. I don't know.
Yeah, we did too.
Who wants to hear?
I also went to performing arts high school, and we did not have a band.
Jeez, I bet you guys were so insufferable. That sounds like such a nightmare, just to be surrounded by an entire school of would-be performers. And no thank you.
Oh yeah, it was a nightmare.
Imagine someone with like anarchist punk politics who's really into Christian ska music and musical theater, and that was my insufferable in high school.
Yeah, listen, we've talked about DC Talk. A band I treasure.
Oh yeah, a lot of propaganda, Five Iron Frenzy, and Sondheim.
Jaws of Clay. Oh, and Sondheim.
Wait, what school did you go to?
I went to the Chattanooga Center for the Creative Arts in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Okay. All right, I don't know that, but I went to.
Oh, you guys don't get a single newsletter?
There's only like 5 or 6 actual dedicated.
There's like one or two here in Baltimore.
I will say it is a very good school. I am not a great testament to the success of my program, but we have launched many people to Broadway.
Who are both of you? Tell me your most famous alums.
I have no idea what their names are. They happened long after I stopped caring.
Okay,
but,
Sean.
They did. It did work.
My most famous probably right now is Van Hansis, who is.
God, I thought you were gonna say Van Halen. I was like, what?
No. Who was on General Hospital, I think, for a long time.
Okay, well,
daytime Emmys.
I didn't go to a performing arts high school, but our most famous alum is Edward Snowden.
So, wow,
that's a good
one.
I
went to school with Edward. His sister graduated with me, and Edward was 2 years younger than me. So, looks like your performing arts high school didn't really step up to the plate.
Tom Petty's daughter went to my school.
Not the same as a man who kicked the government right in the fucking nuts.
No.
I would imagine that they would have had a single useful alumni on the website, and no, they don't. But I can vouch that they have gone on to Broadway. I just don't care enough to
Broadway.
remember their names.
And also don't know how we got here. I guess we should return to Idle
Peter
Hands.
Kids.
Tangent Town really took the exit this time.
I mean, to be honest, the most famous like person to graduate from my high school was Elizabeth Bishop, the American poet. But like,
Love Elizabeth Bishop.
Yeah. So she
well,
went to my
also,
school.
you know, in some circles, some people have said that I'm a little famous alum. So, you know, I'm not gonna whatever. In some circles, in my personal circles,
we got here because we were talking about bands playing at the fucking dance.
But also Dexter, I don't want to take us on another tangent, but we both know that this man has several degrees. He's incredibly smart, Dexter.
Brilliant. Yes.
And he was one of the few non-misogynist good voices to come out of Woodstock 99 as one of the only people to say, please leave women alone. You all are being like very
great
terrible.
In that documentary. I love
that documentary. So you know what, we love it. We love to see it.
He's wearing an AFI t-shirt here, like bringing it
American Film Institute.
Yeah. And also to his credit, he's one of the first artists to take a hard stand on making sure everyone in their band was vaxxed. And
because he's a scientist, because he believes in science.
He lost his drummer, who's now in the anti-vax band with the old singer of the Boss Tones, because everything is bad.
Put it down.
Anti-vaxxer, Dickie Barrett. No, AFI is a fire inside.
I know what AFI is. I just thought
I know, but I want to make sure everybody else knows that we're not talking about the American Film Institute. Because, like, you know, Dexter would probably wear an American Film Institute t-shirt to play a show, but it's not what he's saying. It's a fire inside.
I love Dexter Holland as a person. I haven't cared about his music in 20 years, but like,
I'm sad he died.
Dude is aspirational.
In the filming of this movie.
You know? Yeah. I mean, it sucks that, you know, but if you're going to die after you start a punk label, a hot sauce company, become a doctor, and learn to fly. You know, like the guy.
All of which happened after he died in this movie in 1999.
Absolutely.
Oh God! For a second, I was like, he didn't die.
No, he did. He got the top of his head.
No, guys, I thought you meant real life. I was
joking. I sort of meant real life. I was trying to sort of like do it, you know, because he's playing himself. You know what I mean? So like, he died in the movie, but he's playing himself in the movie. You know. So,
oh my God, his thesis. I don't even want to read this out loud. Oh, I can't believe this. Anyway, of course he lives in
you don't want to read his entire thesis out loud?
It's
Why
not that long. The discovery of
the
thesis is the discovery of mature microRNA sequences within the protein coding regions of global HIV-1 genomes. Predictions of novel mechanisms for viral infection and pathogenicity, which of course he believes in vaccines. He basically Anyway, guys,
I don't know what each of those words mean.
I think that thesis is pretty fly for a white guy. So we got it. We did it. Woo!
Listen, these anti-vaxxers, we got to keep them separated. John?
You just did
okay. If you keep doing this, no one's going to come out and play.
It's really affected my self-esteem. I got one. All right, go ahead.
Okay, back to the motion
Everyone
picture.
listening's like, why don't you get a job? All right. I know too much about the Offspring. I could ruin the rest of this podcast. I think Jen and I probably could. I think we could just do it. We just go on a complete Offspring tangent here, but we're not gonna. We're gonna come back. I will say something that's fun to think about. Not fun. I don't know. This film got pushed back because of Columbine.
Yeah,
10 days.
I said
10
that.
days.
They did not give it enough time. I think it suffered.
Not enough time.
I think it suffered horribly, but I also don't. I mean, I know why they pushed it back, but it's also like I don't see how it had anything to do with Columbine.
This is not a movie about someone with no friends killing their peers. This is
that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying I get it. What I'm saying is like what I'm saying is they understood that like the news cycle was going to be jammed, and honestly, far more than 10 days, but still.
Well, let's also reminisce about an America where like a mass shooting at a school would delay anything, or that anybody would pay any attention anymore. Like that in and of itself is the
idea that
bygone era.
All right, guys, we're just going to chill out for 6 months, and then this is going to stop. And we're just like, oh, you sweet summer child. You have no idea.
I'm basically just mad because the Buffy finale was delayed for like 6 months, and yet this movie can come out within 10 days. You know?
Buffy is such a blind spot for me. I've seen the first 2 seasons.
JMB.
And I know loves it.
Okay.
Do it.
Jen and I will explain the entire series to you starting right now. All right. Season 1 episode.
Uh-oh. Is this an episode of Buffy? I just do it. Just do it.
To every
Just
generation,
do
a
it.
Slayer is okay.
Yeah. Speaking of horrors that happened because you were stoned in high school, I now have to listen to people tell me why I should watch Buffy. So
those people are right.
It's
People are right.
Yeah, they're right. They're right.
all right.
Even though Joss is canceled. They're
so
right.
the post Columbine-ness of this film.
Yeah.
I think it's something I like talking about the visual cues. I know I keep going back to the movie that it wasn't, but it's fun. Did you guys notice that the corpses get really dark and then they, for the last third of the movie, get some blood back? Like they're not as gray and blue and green as they are during the cop sequence.
I did notice that. I wasn't sure if that was like, is the makeup getting lazy or are they like returning to their former selves? But yes,
I thought that what they were doing originally was a American Werewolf in London. So
right.
As they start, like when the blood, they get the bottle in the head, you get the decapitation. As you start doing everything leading up to the death of the cops, each scene, the bodies are entering rigor mortis a little bit more. The rot is there. You get the blue. As soon as they go back and do the Abbott and Costello routine in the kitchen with the burritos, the colors.
Great scene.
Colors.
Great scene.
It's amazing. I love that scene. It's very funny. I love the burrito neck gag is fabulous. But when they talk about they wanted us to come back and have these like cuddly stoners, if you watch the way that they're acting in that versus the way that they're acting during the I don't know, man, kill the cops sequence, they feel like completely different characters.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So I feel like you can visually see how much of the movie was allowed to exist before they start changing it. And the changes work. The changes are still funny. It works as a film, but I feel like that's why it's so jarring in the middle when that shit comes in.
Yeah. I do have another plot question, and that's a pun. And maybe it's just what are maybe I missed something because I told John ahead of time that I watched this a couple weeks ago. Normally I have to watch a movie 10 minutes before. My brain is awful.
Sure.
But also I might have taken a little snoozy Kurtz for a couple of minutes during the motion picture. And I was I've seen it before, but all this to say, why did they come back? Why did his friends come back as zombies? No one else?
Because the music was Enya and they didn't like it, and it was a long trip down the tunnel.
All, I don't want to go on another tangent, but you're wrong about Enya.
And they missed their pal. Well,
but
they're not Enya fans.
But seriously, what are our thoughts?
I think that God help me. You're right. It is because everyone else had a reason to go. I do think that it's because Enya sucks. I think that one of the things
Enya doesn't suck.
I love Enya. My wife's behind me. She loves Enya. I'm getting daggers already. But I'm not saying that Enya sucks. I'm saying that to them, I think that there's this reoccurring theme throughout the movie that life either means everything or life means nothing. And I think that I'm giving them too much credit. But I think that is one of the things. It's just
the classic, I wasn't ready to go.
No, I don't. I think it's even dumber than that. I think that it is.
I like getting high more than I would like die. High over die.
I think it's even dumber than that. I think that sometimes people are too stupid to realize they have a will to live. But I think that also some people survive because they're not going to fight stuff. And I think there is something poetic about the friends being like, oh man, the music sucked and it was really far, being the reason that he gets to hold on to this element of his humanity. But it's also I think it's one of the things that drives back to the idea of why he was so easy to possess and how little life he had, that when they died, they don't even recognize that it's death because living itself isn't something that they recognize. And them coming back and slowly having this story arc where they do start to think about what it means to be alive and do start to think about dude, it's gross that you're making out with that girl. It's gross.
They did certainly seem to do more.
Yeah.
And I feel like
they're
a lot
driven.
of that. Well, or I feel like a lot of that is like could be attributed to not that they were necessarily not brave or fearful in any way, but once something like that happens, you got nothing left to lose. You're already fucking dead.
Yeah.
You might as well go to the dance. You might as well make out with this girl. You might as well do all these goddamn things that you previously didn't do.
Right.
Perhaps you know you were hiding behind drugs if you wanted to take that turn, and now you're dead. So who fuck cares? Who cares? Do it.
I think there's all these profound things about this movie that like that if it had been more focused and like had a single vision and thought to like mention them, you know, and sort of make a point that like this
didn't get released around Columbine.
This is what we're doing. Like I love, so it felt to me that like Seth Green's character's choice to like not be dead and come back and be a zombie and like hang out with him like made a lot of sense, because also like him and Faki Nelson when they're being killed, like they kind of believe that it's not really him and his choice, right? They kind of believe that he is being possessed, like they're on his side, and so like they're not. It's like playing the sort of counterfactual that you often get in horror movies, where like they just die and you move on from there. Instead, they're like, no, we're gonna do like a happy ending where they come back in this like one capacity and like help him out because they're really best friends, and like that's what we're exploring here. And like I really liked that. I mean, I think that was really sweet, and I think there's a lot of, again, like some of the things that John has brought up here, like a lot of really interesting subtext to what's going on. I really wish the movie had spent more time like spelling that out for us and like telling us that's what it was trying to say. And it doesn't, which is a shame, but yeah, I think it's a perfectly valid like reading of it, and I think it works. I think
it goes also to the question of like, why aren't they reacting more to the death of their parents?
Yeah,
or the death of these cops. And like, one, because cops aren't people, but like for the parents
that is true.
You know, we're like,
I don't even
for life. Yeah,
like a cop died, a cop that we knew in high school, and now we know why he's a cop.
Well,
like
this has super ACAB energy for the time, like 100%.
Awesome.
But
but the death of the parents, even, I mean, like, I hate to be like, this is a movie where the parents don't even exist, but this is a movie where the parents don't even exist.
They don't.
Even before we know they're dead, we have the jerk off twins over in their basement where they have multiple bongs out on the table. So like at bare minimum, these are kids. Like I had friends growing up who had no fear that their parents were going to find out that they were smoking weed in their attic. And like, that was a specific relationship they had with their parents. Yes. So when I saw this, I immediately coded the relationship that these guys have. And like, one of the things that I think does, like, if there's anything to pause post Columbine about this film, is this movie does really kind of nail that sense of like 1999, as long as you're not killing anyone, we don't give a shit what you're doing. Like there's an apathy of parents in that era that I think shows up a lot in like American Pie. It shows up a lot in like Orange County. It shows up in I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream. There's the 90 parents in the 90s are so different than the helicopter parents of today, where they don't even exist in your life, and your parents die, and that doesn't even fucking change anything about the way you would interact with them. And I think that again, I feel like there is a joke somewhere that was cut out of the movie. I feel like there is something. It is too on the nose that even before they're dead, they're so absent. They
don't even care that he hasn't been in school. They have a conversation about Devon Sawa's lack of school attendance, and no one seems to care. And not only that,
he's like Fred Willard about it.
The parents are enabling his slacker attitude. Everyone seems very fine with the status quo. Very fine with the status quo. I was very worried about the dog. I remember thinking, "Oh my God, they're out of dog food. He's never going to feed the fucking dog."
Yeah.
But once we've handled that, I could relax. But like
that was the one thing that like for a moment took me out and then gave me like a sense of sadness.
I was like, "What's going on with the dog?"
The scene where he's pushing the dog though, it's like fucking that's hilarious.
When they have their heads smushed up against each other, like oh God, but Devon Sawa.
Like he's
the only one. And I get that. As a matter of fact,
he's the first time we see Devon smoke, or we see why am I blanking on his name? The first time we see him smoke weed in the movie is in the family living room.
Yeah,
like, and he lights incense, but whatever. But like that is a level of checked out that like, that's insane. His parents die. He's like, oh, we got to look for anything. The first time we see him reach for comfort, safety, or family in the movie is the dog. It's the only thing he tries to protect.
He's worried about the dog. He's worried about the dog, which I understand.
It's so human, but I like, there's such a, I hate being like, there's so much happening in this movie that they never talk about that's worth commenting on. But like, as a 90s latchkey kid, like my parents like my parents, God bless them, were amazing parents. Every friend I have would kill to have my parents. My senior year, my mom had a job in Nashville, 2 hours away in Chattanooga, or from Chattanooga, where I was going to high school. I almost lived with a teacher so they could work in Nashville. And I had 3 or 4 days a week where they just weren't home. And I was a good kid who didn't take advantage of that as much as I should have. But like, even with the best parents, that is the most latchkey 90s kid thing that you're like, oh yeah, the mom's got a job 2 hours away.
I loved the sort of satire that this was going for as well. But again, like, I could never really quite latch on to exactly what it was going for. Like, when it was doing the satire thing and sort of making fun of exactly what you're saying. I mean, again, like, not to get back to Buffy, but like, it's the same thing. Like, aside from Buffy's parents, like, there are no parents in Buffy. There's no cops in Buffy. Like,
that
there's
is
no consequences.
But that's like so many. Like, again, to go back to the 90s.
No, it's lots of things.
That's
lots of things
like teen dramas. That's teen shows. That's teen
everything.
Like Saved by the Bell. I couldn't tell you who the fuck and nobody's parents. That's like such a weird example. But like, I'm like,
the principal's the parent. But that's
right. Of course, Richard Bell didn't get out of here.
Got human trafficked. But did you not see the last episode of Good Morning Miss Bliss? No, I've only seen two seasons of Buffy.
Bye, Haley Mills. We love you.
Reference.
But something I've noticed in Buffy while watching it, because I've just started watching it because someone I love loves Buffy. Something that's interesting is like, it's not so much that the parents aren't parents. It's not so much that the cops aren't cops or that they're not there. It's that everyone is so overwhelmed by what they're doing that they don't even notice the horror around them. And I think that that's one of the things that I have kind of picked up on and enjoyed about Buffy is also kind of what I like about this, kind of what I like about Scream. The fact that there's a party, the fact that more than one parent is out of town is a plot point in Scream is so 90s. And I think that happens all the time in Buffy. It happens in this, that even, for fuck's sake, the only time he reaches out to an adult, it's the burnout metalhead across the street. Like, there are no adults. And when you do meet the adult, it's the principal who's like furious that he can't jerk off on the phone during the school dance. There are no,
and again,
there's no teachers at the dance.
I'd like to think that was a nod to Back to the Future, by the way. Just a little bit. But that's another thing of like, a trope in a movie of like what teachers will be doing in a school. I find quite shocking. I'm like, why are you doing this here right now? Stop. But just nobody liked children. That was the long and the short of it. Nobody cared about us.
Can we briefly talk about Devon Sawa's like physical performance in this? Which
absolutely.
I love Devon Sawa to bits. I think he's awesome. And I'm really glad. Like, I almost was like, when the hand got cut off, I'm like, oh, well, there goes that whole physical comedy part of it. But like, it would have killed him if he spent the rest of the movie trying to like pull that off. But the scene,
we would have gotten very tired.
The scene when Jessica Alba is like, I don't know what she's doing with him in her bedroom, but like with him and the tying up the hand and all that sort of thing, and like it's really, really brilliant. It's really, really great physical work. He's awesome.
He's one of those actors that I feel like does not necessarily get the respect that he probably fucking deserves.
No,
because like I feel like he got typecast as that Devon Sawa character.
Well, he got Final Destination, and then he just
his Devon Sawa's job is always to be the heartthrob who's next to the heartthrob. Like I think that like he's not hot enough to be the
literally
character to be like. Yeah, well, Casper is like a very weird era where
Casper is very weird.
Are very
also wasn't he the
weird
hot
ass
one?
Movie.
Wasn't he supposed to be the hot kid in Now and Then, or was he just the brother of the hot kid in Now?
I thought he was the hot one in Now and Then.
I think he's the hot one in Now and Then.
Let me know that he's not. So
I mean, these are children, so let's be careful. But like, yeah,
it's okay. She was a kid when she was horny for it,
right? So Yeah, Devon Sawa. I mean, I know that he just showed up in the sci-fi Chucky series, which was kind of
So good
thrilling.
in it.
Yes.
So good.
Yeah.
And he's really great on social media. I mean, I hate to mention
Love
the
him on
artist
social
formerly known
media.
as Twitter, but he's fantastic.
He
on
is
Twitter.
Stan.
He's hilarious.
He's Stan. He's the person who gave us our modern like Zoomer version of what a fan is. He is the original Stan from the Eminem video. Like,
And I do want to say he's aged. He's fantastic.
Oh,
he's very handsome.
hunk.
Looking great.
Very handsome now.
He also, I feel like he represents this fun kind of like childhood star. Like Ethan Embry is another great example.
Yes.
Of like someone who I absolutely imagined was going to be left by time, and who figured out to not turn down shit. So like he's worked really consistently, and because of that he gets to audition for stuff, but then when he's given an opportunity to do something really good, he's still working enough that people are like, oh yeah, let that guy audition. So like he has a very steady filmography, but he still like gets to do stuff that's fun or slightly better than you would imagine. And it just makes me happy whenever I see him pop up in something like Lucky.
That's great.
You know, where I'm like, oh man.
That was great. He was great. And speaking of, I just happened to pull up, I wish I had put this in my little notes, but in June 2022, he was interviewed by The Independent, and he said, and I quote, "I had to smoke pot in movies and I had to be in a hip hop video. That's what I felt like I had to do to get away from Can I Keep You?" Sawa laughs over Zoom from his Los Angeles home. Everybody wanted to hear, "Can I keep you?" It drove me nuts. And that's, of course, from Casper. So...
And also another film about latchkey kids doing their best. You know,
I mean, because it's always, God, 90% of the time it's mom died, dad's heartbroken, child gets lost in the griefy fray. That's literally what happens every time. It's happened in Scream with Nev Campbell, and obviously that's what happened with Christina Ricci. It's always a divorce or a death, and then the child is just like left to pick up the pieces while the parent.
It's the hero's journey.
Yeah.
So, okay, so
in horror films,
the ending, real quick, I feel like is worth talking about in the context of the movie we got, not the movie that is there. Because like I'm the kind of nerd that owns all 4 versions of Dawn of the Dead because I think they each have their own quirks. I think that's valid and fun to look at movies. I think also if you look at like what you get and try to find what's great there, that can be fun. I love the original ending. I think the original ending that they shot, and if you haven't seen it, basically it takes place.
Explain what it is.
Yes.
It takes place in the school pool instead of the shop, and they come out, and Molly and Anton are chased to the top of the high dive by the hand. The ritual is happening that is going to take Molly's soul to hell. The zombies and the Hesher and the Demon Slayer all come in. Hands break out of the walls, pull them in, hold them into the walls, and Anton sacrifices his life for Molly's life after stabbing the hand with the magical dagger because the spell still needs a soul. And he dies, and then the heaven opens up, and the zombies decide to go to heaven, and they're like, "You're gonna come with us, Anton." Same movie other than that. And the actual ending, they go to the wood shop, or they go to the metalworking shop, because God, the 90s had such fascinating school budgets.
Guys, I gotta tell you, I've never in my life seen any school, my high school included, where there's a full working automotive shop.
There was one in Chattanooga, so I know that it has happened.
I remember watching 16 Candles and going, she's sitting in a car in her school. What is happening? But anyway, not to tangent, but again, I don't know where these schools are.
I feel like they're few and far between, and they're only in the poorest or richest schools.
Yeah, the poorest, because they're like, we don't think that you'll be going very far beyond this, and we want to give you a technical school, which is very valid, but still, that's
if it's in a poor school, I always assume it's because the school board goes there for free auto work. So the actual ending there, the hand ties Molly to the top of a car, is slowly raising the car up to smash her into a pentagram that has been drawn in blood on the ceiling. They come in, they fight with the hand, which is now inside of a puppet. They are fighting over the hydraulic lift, and they throw the demon hunter and the Hesher come in. They give the dagger to Anton, who throws it, hits the hand midair. After it's gotten stoned, and it gets tagged into Seth Green's chest, and then it just pops in the tiniest little puff of smoke. And I'll genuinely laugh out loud. Funny line is just like, that's it. Like,
yeah, that's it. That's very funny.
It's so funny. But
I just thought there'd be explosions, or
yeah, which is the original ending of the film.
That's it.
Like the original endings of the film is literally explosions and fire.
Right.
And it's like, it's so funny. It comes out of nowhere. You as the audience, especially, have been trained to expect a big sci-fi extravaganza, special effects, and everything. So the question is, is that secretly a brilliant ending that ties this whole movie together about the meaninglessness of everything? Because it ends and there's no consequences. It ends and there's no, it's not like we defeated the devil and it blew out even the windows or anything like that. It's just like, oh, pop, it's gone. It was that easy the whole time. She probably didn't even need to stab him if it was attached to his hand. She probably could have just stabbed the hand. Yeah. We'll never know because I love that wraparound because it in a very beautiful way. This is an incredibly nihilistic film where there are no rewards, there's no joy, there's no, you don't even get the satisfaction of an explosion.
I think that nihilism is also like very well encapsulated, and I this is both what I kind of loved and didn't love, like at exactly the same time. I'm like, this is like what I hate about this movie, and also what I think is great about its sort of boldness is the way that at the end they do the like I'm under the bed thing prank to him, right? And he's like genuinely horrified. He's just been through this like incredibly traumatic experience.
And
he no longer has a right. He has no right hand left anymore. They're like, let's fuck with him. And I'm like, that's it, right? Because like that's the whole kind of joke. Is like there aren't any real consequences or like real emotions. Like this poor fucking guy has been so goddamn traumatized. Yeah. And they're his guardian angels and just fucking with him like, hey, remember how your mom died?
Well, that's because they've now made it. So once again, they have nothing left to lose. They don't have to follow any rules or be respectful or anything whatsoever because the thing that you're promised is what they've already got.
Even worse than that. Even worse than that, guys. Even worse than that. He finally gets a guardian angel, and the first thing they do is fuck with him when he doesn't have the ability to run. Like you're born into this world with uncaring parents whose death will have no impact on you. And when you finally get a guardian angel, the first thing they will do is remind you of their death and haunt you. Like this is a film about how you have no one.
Yes, but I also think in that particular moment, I love a dark take on anything, but I just think in that particular moment, they're saying, well, this friendship's not going to change. It doesn't really matter what everybody just went through. I don't, that we are still the same boys. We're still going to give you shit, but now you can't really give it back, which is maybe like right now you can't give it back.
But I think that is kind of what I'm saying is like, even through this transformative experience, fuck you, Anton. Like that is, there is something so beautiful about it. Would be like if at the end of Scream, Sydney comes out and Gail is like, Gail Weathers reporting, and Sydney walks up and punches her again,
hits her again because nothing's changed.
Although that's also very teen, like the way that teenagers kind of think about life, right? Mm-hmm. That it's sort of like that there aren't any consequences until you're in your 20s or 30s anyway. So what difference does it make? And I also like the other thing about this ending. So I love the poof, and I love, again, I don't love it, but like I think it is bold, the sort of doubling down on the nihilism there. So the puppet thing, right? This is the thing where I was watching it and I'm like, this is my problem with this movie. I love this gag. It's very funny. Like I love the fact that the evil hand is now a puppet and they're giving it this like emotion and expressions and really playing around with that. But I'm like, where is this from? Like like this is not the movie I was just watching. Like this is a different movie now with like an evil puppet that's working for me. But like that to me is like, this is why this movie is so jarring, that I'm never really quite, I'm never comfortable watching this at all. I'm very
I think that this puppet, I just had to look at the image again because I forgot. Sorry, that was one of my when I went on a little snoozy Kurtz, that was during that scene. But I looked at it again and I was like, okay, I remember the puppet now.
Yeah,
I think that's just sadly, like, I'd love to attribute a lot of like beautiful meaning to it, but I think that's after they showed the screening, and the notes they got back was, we like cute zombies, we like weed, weed's got to save the day. And then it becomes cartoonish because the notes they got from these people who watched the screener was, we want it to be like hijinks, literally focusing on the hijinks and hilarity. Weed is saving the day. Literally, those were the notes. Weed has to save the day. Jessica Alba's top has to get ripped off, which thank God, not really. And then of course the zombies have to be like adorable.
Yeah.
So insert a puppet, which kind of satisfies and scratches like all those itches of like goofiness and comedy.
I feel like the puppet, I don't know. And again, probably give them too much credit. I feel like the puppet and Mighty Joe Bong are all symbols of the exact same thing, which are, no one is paying attention to anything that these kids are doing in any capacity. And like, why do you have time to do this? Because school sucks and you're not actually doing much at school. Like, I think there's an element that when they were asked to go back and make this a stoner comedy, if I had to make a bizarre argument about this film, I think that their response was to make the most nihilistic stoner comedy that they could possibly make.
Edgy stoner comedy.
Yeah, there's none of the fun of weed like in this.
No, because in this, and technically it's a punishment. The reason why this happens to Devon Sawa and his friends is because he is high all the time. Yes, my favorite movie. And is doing absolutely dick all. So it's almost an anti-drug motion picture if you were just to look at it like that and say, uh-oh, smoking pot's going to get me possessed by the devil. I'm in trouble.
And that's one of the questions I have is like, okay, let's just accept all of the reality they give us. Did a kid make a puppet that if you roll the eyes up high enough are bloodshot? Based on what we know about these kids, that's possible.
Yes.
Like that's one of the things that's sort of beautiful about it is point. Like the puppet, even, God damn it, I hate that I'm saying this. The movie Idle Hands accepts and plays by all of the rules that it gives you. It says these are the rules. They may not make sense, but we live by them. And like the puppet, God help us, is the sort of puppet that could have those kinds of features. And
if you magicked that puppet to life, he would be one of their friends.
Yeah. Because
he would be one of their friends.
And that's one of the things is like, if the puppet was magic, it would have talked. So the puppet's not magic. The hand is manipulating the puppet to show its emotions, which in and of itself is a hilarious gag.
Yeah,
you know?
Unnecessary and hilarious. I don't get that. We don't care what you're feeling, hand.
But it goes again so deeply into how much no one's paying attention to anything that these kids are doing in any capacity. And I think that like from the drinking that's like subtly happening at the party, at the dance, to the parents never paying attention, to the principal literally being in his office the entire party, like. No teacher dies at the dance. It's all kids. No teacher pushes kids out of the way or like opens the door.
Just the principal, but yes. Right. Yeah.
You know, like
just the kids and the offspring.
You're still being shown this, like the incredible things that these kids are doing in the, like, as no one's noticing what's going on. And like, the film is sort of about Anton's like lost potential of how good he could be if he wasn't just smoking.
I mean, look, we have to assume he made that asthma inhaler. What is that even called?
Yeah, the little
tokey toe. I don't know what to call it, but
little piece. We'll just call it a piece.
Little piece. So like, yeah, like that's right there. Like that's ingenious. That's ingenious.
So yeah, I feel like there's ingenuity that these kids are showing. Like I think that's sort of the thing that I keep falling back to outside of the like. The cinematographer worshiping Fulci films is like, none of this would happen if anyone was paying attention. If all of these people weren't given opportunity to be bored out of their minds, if all of them weren't given the opportunity, like they're so smart, they're so full of ingenuity, and they just are ignored and left by these adults who don't notice anything that's happening, to the point where the devil possesses their kid's hand and they don't even notice that he's out killing the guys at the fast food place, like,
Yeah.
so the puppet is the puppet magic, or is the puppet just a puppet that it found that happens to have all of these when its eyes roll back in its head and the bloodshot's there, like, that's a funny gag, but also like it's shown no magical properties. Like, so
right. Again, it's like those things. It's like weirdly thoughtful in this movie, but like, because the movie is just not universally coherent, it's sort of like, if you I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I like it more. I like it more than I thought I did. I
was this your first time, John, seeing this movie?
No, I had seen it. And I remember being sort of entertained by it.
We haven't even talked about the soundtrack,
one way or the
by
other.
The way. We haven't talked about the soundtrack.
Well,
Rammstein.
So first of all, like, all the music and all the bands of the era, but also the score is written by Graham Revell, who I know, Jen, you listened to a lot because he wrote the Crow score.
Perfection.
And it's a very Graham Revell score. But when I saw Graham Revell, I'm like, oh, here we go. Okay, this got
different
potential.
vibe. Still appreciated it.
Yeah, it is unbelievable, the sheer amount of music that is, like, the number of songs that are playing.
The first 10 minutes, you get a full playlist. If you were like, what was 1999 about? I'd be like, the first 10 minutes of Idle Hands is all you need.
And if that weren't enough, Offspring comes to play a concert for you at the end.
Crazy. I mean, this is where we get to see the Dracula music video. I was like, honey.
The Dracula, yes. Yeah, like a full-on music video.
From my
you play a lot of Dracula. The Dracula scene goes on for quite some time.
Yeah, well, you had to. I mean, Rob Zombie, that's one of the sweetest boys out there.
Absolutely.
Static X? Stop. I can't.
Evil Disco, man.
Oh
Evil
my
Disco.
God. And then Motley Crue, because you had to. So, sure. But yeah, great. It was great.
I will fall on the sword that Static X is a good band that will be rediscovered someday. But
fucking Santeria, of course, Santeria appears in the background.
I've been listening.
You can't have this movie. You can't have stoners in the 90s without Santeria.
You can't have white boys in the 90s without Sublime. I've been listening to a lot of Sublime recently. I don't know why. I can't.
Because it holds up. It's timeless.
I don't know why either.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah,
Sublime is a better band. Like, Sublime is like, I feel like Sublime is like this film in some ways, where like the people who are nostalgic for it are probably why everyone else isn't. And like, but
that's a really great way of saying it.
If you go back and like the people who were loudest about Sublime ruling in the 90s never tell you about the actual reasons that Sublime rules. But like Sublime, like fucking 40 Ounce to Freedom is the only album in history to have covers of Bad Religion, The Grateful Dead, and Bob Marley. And then still have 17 other good original songs.
Incredible album.
Like, it's
so many tattoos. I have that tattoo without the word. I have
You have a Sublime tattoo?
The word, but I have the sun on it. Like,
first off, if you have the Sublime Sun tattoo, that's a word. Like, for an illiterate fan base.
Well,
that's
the thing is.
That's
sorry, the thing is that I mean, I just actually told my person why I got this tattoo. I got it in late 1998, almost 1999. My first semester of my first college.
Were you practicing Santeria? Or?
No, I went to the tattoo shop and I thought it would be really funny. And I said to him, I was like, let's put a sun above my moon because it's on my lower back. And he goes, okay.
You ironically got a Sublime tramp stamp?
I thought it was so funny just to keep saying it's the sun above my moon. It's the sun above my moon. I thought that was real funny. I was never a serious tattoo person until a little bit recently, which is why a lot of mine are pretty regrettable. But I always thought it's funnier to be funny.
I think that's an appropriate story for this podcast because, like the movie, you and the tattoo artist both thought you were making something different.
There's a different theme on every tattoo. Tonally, and your beautiful wife gave me one of my favorites. Tonally, all my tattoos are different. So,
I've got very stupid tattoos. So, I've got good ones, but I got a lot of goofs. So I only make fun of the people that I relate to.
That's right.
Before we head to wrap up time here, there's a couple tiny little bits of trivia that I think are worth mentioning. One is that the neighborhood that this was filmed in was the same neighborhood they filmed Halloween in, which is why it's got that vibe. The other was the gym, and this is relevant to you, Jen. So the gym that they filmed the Offspring scene in, there's two other notable movies that it was they filmed. The Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie.
That's right.
With Chrissy Swanson and Paul Rubens.
With one of the greatest death scenes in cinematic history, Paul Rubens' death scene in that movie will go down as...
And the final scene in what other 1999 gem?
Jawbreaker. One of my favorite movies from 1999 is Jawbreaker.
Incredible film.
A little Buffy crossover, a little 99 crossover. It's all coming together.
I have another bit of trivia, unless you were going to drop this one about P-Nub's his name.
P-Nub. I did read this.
I thought he played bass in 311.
It was a shout out to Eddie Murphy's Buckwheat when he says Wookie P-Nub when he's instead of looking for love. P-Nub is from Wookie P-Nub, which I appreciate that. And I think that's it for me for trivia and fun facts. Yeah, that's it.
No, the rest of the facts are sad.
Yeah,
no,
I mean, there wasn't a lot of crazy. Everyone seemed to just have a really good time. Obviously, how could you not?
Yeah. It's very interesting how little drama there is for a movie that so clearly is three different movies.
Yeah.
Yes.
You would imagine at some point, even I read the same interview with Seth Green, and he's almost bemused by how it, the fact he's like, I think it's cool that people still like it, and the fact that it's as good as it is a minor miracle. I love
like it more
approach.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, he can do that because he went on to do interesting things. If you get stuck in that one movie that people won't stop talking to you about, you get a little resentful. But he was like, "Nah, I got Robot Chicken. I'm great. My wife is beautiful. She's..."
Oh yeah, they all came out of this. Okay, right? And I also do. I do want to give a shout out to the performance of our friend Mr. Noseworthy here, because that character's great, and I love. He's always
bully. His resting bully face. I feel like I definitely recognize.
He's like Metal Stifler. Is kind of what he's playing.
And outside of film, he's best known for Broadway.
Really?
But I'm not surprised.
Yeah, he's like a musical theater guy.
Good for him. That's
he spent years in Cats, so he knows horror.
Wait, was he the magical Mr. Mistopheles? He has magical Mr. Mistopheles. No, he doesn't. He has Rum Tum Tugger. He has Rum Tum Tugger energy, doesn't he? Okay.
Yeah, I would agree.
When he's hitting on the girl who's like at
who's
the
his half sister? You mean his half sister?
Right.
His half sister.
No, I think it's a different person.
No,
I think those are two different actors.
It's right outside of the fast food place.
It's the fast food place. That's his half sister.
I think
the way
no, because Tanya or whatever, they're different people.
Okay,
but
they're different people. They just look the same.
His approach of just being like, "Wow, sounds like you were really mean to him." is such an underrated gag, and that's really funny. Such a good pivot. Okay,
that got an LOL from me for sure. Okay, we're gonna wrap up. We need to ask our final questions. So whenever we have first time guests, we ask these two questions, and you can answer them however you want to. So the first question is: do you have a favorite movie from 1999?
Ooh, a favorite movie from 1999. Face Off is 1998. I hate that I was my first thing was can I say Face Off?
I love Face Off. If you, I'm sure it was released somewhere in 1999.
It's interesting because I feel like for me, 1999 is my 9th grade year. So there's just wildly important shit from it, but it also could be. Was it 1998 9th grade or was it 1999 9th grade?
Gotcha.
Fuck. Okay, yeah. Do you want my favorite movie from that year when I was that age, or do you want my favorite movie from that year as I've grown up and aged?
Hey, if you've got both, do both. Nobody ever cares that much.
My favorite movie, no one ever cares that much. The John Michael Bond story.
Oh,
no, it just happens a lot when I talk about films. Let's see. I think for my favorite movie of that year was Fight Club. That was
sure. Oh, a lot of boys loved that movie. Boys were loving that movie.
I had a non-toxic response to Fight Club though.
Actually doing good. Fuck capitalism and corporate. And this was all.
Oh, see, like you understood what it was about.
Yeah. That's the response. The response is fuck capitalism. The bad response is men hate women.
I'm very lucky in that my brother was in college and is 4 years older than me. So when I was in 9th grade, I'd go spend the weekend with him and his friends at college a lot. So when I saw a Fight Club, I saw it with my older brother, the girl he was dating, and her roommate who was a women's studies major.
Here we go.
And the conversation I had after watching Fight Club was about the impotence of male rage.
Yeah.
And I didn't necessarily get everything that was happening, but it did immediately make me contextualize that film as not being pro-terrorism.
Yeah.
And I think that was really useful for me. And I'm very thankful for that as an era. I will say that my favorite movie from 1999 artistically is Eyes Wide Shut. The best movie from 1999 is Beyond the Mat. It is an incredible documentary about professional wrestling that is, if you've ever done stand-up comedy, which I do now, or if you've ever been involved in any form of passionate artistic endeavor that requires you to be both social and alienated from the rest of society, Beyond the Mat is one of the most incredible documentaries you will ever see about people killing themselves for the possibility of being famous, but actively making the choice to still kill themselves in like high school gyms to pursue a dream.
Is it about
powerful?
Is it about as in was it WWF then? Or like WW?
It was WWF.
WWF then. So it's about like the 90s era.
The Rock Johnson made his first film appearance and Beyond.
It's about everyone.
I feel like I do feel like I want to watch this. This sounds very good.
Oh, you would. It will make you cry at least once.
Well, you know what? I love a cry. My period's coming. I'm gonna get it on deck.
It's also really interesting in the context of modern filmmaking because I feel like it predates what's happening on YouTube in a lot of ways, where you have people who are not formally trained filmmakers trying to make who suddenly have the ability to make cinematic art, but not any training about storytelling, making stuff about things that they love, and then discovering a side of it that they'd never anticipated. So this guy spent 3 years traveling with WWE and Extreme Championship Wrestling.
Whoa.
And like
Mick Foley, Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yeah, Mick Foley will make you fall in love with him in this. Jake the Snake Roberts will make you weep. He is it is such a brilliant film about wrestling as art and about the impact it has on families, and like it is like I get emotional thinking about scenes from it. Eyes Wide Shut is the masterwork of 99. The best movie is Beyond the Mat, and my favorite was Fight Club because I
love those answers. All right, second question. Before I do the second question,
one answer this time, I promise.
Face Off came out in 97. The latest it was released was in Japan, February 28th, 1998. But that's probably what you're thinking of. You probably lived in. Did you live in India then? Because that might be why you're confused.
It came out on home video in 1998, so I watched it a lot in 98, in 8th grade and 9th grade. So.
Yeah. Second question: do you have a favorite movie of all time?
I know.
Or just like, what do you tell people when
go break your brain with this one?
Actually, easy. So I would not. This is the question. The problem is that when people are asked that question, they're always trying to say, "What's the best movie you've ever seen?"
Yep.
The best movie I've ever seen is Sorcerer. I've never seen a film that's better. It is a stunning artistic achievement, absolutely terrifying, incredible cinematography. Not my favorite movie. My favorite movie is That Thing You Do.
Woo!
Wow! All right, we're coming back.
I can watch it. I can watch it any day of the week. I think it is the most underrated musical comedy.
Yes.
I think it is.
Yes.
It's a great movie.
It is so romantic.
Yeah.
And it's the beauty of its romance.
Yeah.
It's the beauty of the romance of That Thing You Do is it is just about the agony of everything up until the moment you say, I care about you.
You know what? I'm seeing a theme in your films here, John, and it's the heartbreak of trying to become famous and all the things that that you win and lose in trying to achieve fame. Although in that
I'm
thing you
seeing
do,
it.
only one person was really going for fame. Guy was there for the love of the music, but Jimmy
Mhm.
wanted to be famous, full stop, and he didn't care how he did it or what got him there and how many Liv Tyler hearts he broke along the way.
I think if you look at all of the movies that I've referenced, from Beyond the Mat to Fight Club to Sorcerer,
notoriety or some sort of
to That Thing
see
You
me,
Do.
I need to be seen.
Nope. It is about people keeping their humanity in the face of existence. And I think that that's the thing that I'm drawn to more than anything, and why I think That Thing You Do is so beautiful and tragic. But I think that like every movie that I've referenced so far has the same theme. Is it's not necessarily about trying to make it. It's about trying to stay yourself while you make something. And like, I don't think fame is the thing that's like struck me to the point where I've sabotaged my comedy career so many times.
No, I don't think that's you. And I know you well enough to know
Yeah.
that that's not what drives you. But I think that in a lot of these films, it's people that are trying to get somewhere, and can they do it in a way that isn't compromising who they are as a person? And I would argue, just to say That Thing You Do, nobody did compromise who they are. Jimmy always sucked. Guy was always nice.
Yeah.
Like no one really changed. They just became bigger versions of themselves.
The only time Guy sells out is when he puts on the sunglasses. And,
That's right.
And it's the tiniest concession. But I think the best art is about people holding on to their humanity. And when art is about the pursuit of that humanity, it's at its best. So that tends to be where
And that is why the people who make it, regardless of everyone claiming they are the nicest person in the biz, do not.
Bro, I mean,
and
but also
do not trust them.
When Fountains of Wayne's Adam Schlesinger writes the music as well, you know. It's only
the great American songwriters. God bless, may rest in peace. But I feel like, you know, honestly, what I just said about That Thing You Do is also why I like Idle Hands, because everyone involved making it was like, we're going to do the best we can and put as much of ourselves in as we can. And like, what you get is messy sometimes, but at least,
you know, well, I know we got to go. I just will say one more thing. Watching this movie made me long for Seth Green.
I know.
Seth Green is as a comedic actor, and we had such a great run with him.
Okay. Yep. I didn't know what kind of longing you meant.
Sorry, no, not like that. No, not like that. No, I meant like I miss his delivery, his comedy. I think there's still a space for that, obviously. Yeah. And I was like, come back.
Do you watch Robot Chicken?
I don't watch Robot Chicken.
And
I know
his comedy. You would like Robot Chicken. I mean, like, it's his.
I know, but I want Seth Green himself. Yeah. I know he's doing Family Guy for fucking forever, but like I want to see Seth Green do that thing where now he's got to be the dad in the teen movie, because he's aged out of being the goofy teen, and now but
he's still improvising everything, and
still be Seth Green. Still have your backpack full of condoms, trying to have sex with Lauren Ambrose, or not at Lauren Ambrose, but whoever. Do it, please.
The performance and Can't Hardly Wait.
If this somehow makes its way to Seth Green, we want you back.
I think the amount of work it takes to make Robot Chicken is hilariously
astronomical.
Absorbed his entire life.
And nobody's happy.
When he's 50, his like,
he is almost 50. I believe he turns 50 this year.
When he returns, that man is gonna rise from a phoenix from the bong ashes or whatever. But he's gonna have an amazing third act.
I want him to. I want him back on a screen.
He's gonna use that
for Oz to come back to Buffy.
But he's gonna use that Family Guy money to just make the most difficult art anyone's ever heard.
He's got to be making so much fucking money. Are they making like Simpsons level money at this point?
They've been on since I was in 9th grade.
But they're making Simpsons level money, right? I mean, they've got to be.
Think about how often it's playing on TBS, like the syndication money.
But I don't know what their deals are, because maybe they got shit out of a good deal in the beginning.
They're making plenty of money.
I hope
when it came back, I feel like a show that came this is like nothing to do with what we're talking about, but like I feel like a show that comes back after being discovered specifically through its reruns.
Yeah,
that negotiation process includes some back end,
and DVD. I mean, it was
Oh yeah.
Anyways, all right.
Okay.
This was fun. Thank you, John.
Thank you so much.
much.
You guys
It was
were a
lot of
delight.
fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
Would
you for
you like to advertise yourself a little bit before we go?
Yeah. If you look up John Michael Bond on Bandcamp, I have it's not an album, it's like a mixtape of jokes I wish I had told before the world ended, and have been too lazy to re-record in front of an audience.
That should be the album title, or is it already?
It's called
Jokes I
Everything's
Wish I Told.
Fine. So
okay.
I also have a podcast with my dad called Dad Movies. We're not recording right now, but there's like 52 episodes that are up, and they're all fantastic, and he is much more charming and soft-spoken than I am.
Impossible.
Love it.
Okay.
You can find us at 1999 the podcast and all the socials on the Twitter and we're on Blue Sky now. I made a Blue Sky thing for us.
Yeah.
And the Instagrams. You can email us 1999 at cageclub.me. That's cageclub.me, not cageclub.co.nz. Or whatever. No, and I guess I have to do the tease for the next episode because you did the intro, huh? So,
that's right. And also, as per usual, I never know what it is until you.
Okay. So we haven't decided what the next episode is yet, but we have a casting call out for it. Is that good?
Yeah,
you
you're
got
just gonna make me read.
Oh well. Anyway. Thank you guys. This was fun. Look out for frogs, and we'll see you.